Hi everyone, Simon from Horoma Studio. Today we're gonna have a look at this image and do a little teardown. So overall the image is really nice. I think there are like a lot of small details that I think are interesting. The overall composition is working. There are small details I think that I want to talk about that I think could be enhanced or simplified. So when it comes to composition, I think we have like interesting dynamic, like the sort of like curve that we have here and that we found here is interesting. We have the horizon line that is like nicely sitting about like not too much in the center, not too low. So you have like a good balance. We also have an interesting like maybe we could enhance it a little and have like some sort of aerial perspective where you would have like a little bit of fog. So this would be like slightly less contrast here, and you could have like a little bit of a haze basically, because we have this idea of like right before or right after either the storm or something like that. So it's quite nice. In terms of composition, again, I quite like this. I think it's kind of a shame not to have more of the little pool here. So I think I would have, even if it's not really like that for the project, I guess I would have tried to have a little bit more of it and have like maybe to work a little bit more the pond, so that you have like different types of noise basically, so that you would have like some sort of high frequency versus low frequency, and you sort of merge it with like another noise, so that you can have like something that is really dense and then something that is almost like a pure mirror. So that way you have like a more interesting reflection, I think. And it would have been nice to basically be able to almost get like the full height of the building somehow. I think it still makes sense to not putting the camera here looking at the building, because otherwise you would lose all this facade here that is quite interesting, especially considering this sort of like nice material here that had like really nice reflection here. This is really, really nice, I think, in terms of it's nice. So yeah, for the composition I don't have much more to say. In terms of lighting, if I go into my, in terms of lighting, I think there's like a bit of an issue in terms of, like when you look at it, you can see everything is quite dark, which could be fine, except that I think there's something that is not really, like doesn't make sense to me. The foreground should be much darker, because you can see that the overall light you're gonna have is like darker than this. For instance, this is extremely dark, this is super dark, and this is light. And even though in terms of contrast our eyes are drawn to this area, I think it would be better to darken a little bit the foreground still. So that would be first thing. I think another thing in terms of like basically the quantity of information, if I may say. If we look at this facade here, the one thing that stands out is that it's a really complicated facade. We have like this sort of like triangulation system with different types of reflections. Some of them are like see-through, where you can see the inside of the building, others are reflective, etc. So it's a complex facade. There's a lot of information to take in. So what you need to do usually when you have that kind of dense area is to counterbalance it with something that is not too dense, so that you have this sort of like negative space in terms of information, where you can like sort of alternate with your gaze, and like you go sort of like look around and you come back to it, and you have like this sort of balance that you're looking for. The issue here is that if you sort of like even look from far like that, you can see that there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things happening here, and even the sky is actually quite complicated. It makes sense to have this sort of sky because we have this sort of as I said earlier, after the storm thing, but I think it adds an extra layer of complexity to the image that is not necessary. So what I would suggest, I think, is either to You can maybe lower again the contrast of the overall sky so that you have less, like you can read less the clouds. Or maybe you would go with something a little bit different that would have like parts of the sky that would be actually clean, or I don't know how to say, like cloudless. And maybe you would have like a bigger, darker sky somewhere or something like that. Darker clouds, sorry. The idea being to have like proper negative space to counterbalance the facade here. That would be my main point. But then in terms of overall like contrast, I think it's done pretty nicely. We maybe lack a little. I think I would like add a little bit of well, I'll do it here. Well, no, I'll do it like that. How do you do that again? Fill 50% gray, beam, overlay, up. I think I would still enhance a little the inside here so that it catches the eye a little bit more, and so that there's like a difference between the artificial light that is almost like pulsing and the natural light that is like more dimmed and like calm, let's say. So yeah, something like this. The other thing I think that is important to notice is the issue of like saturation and color here. If you look at the this, you can see that the saturation is quite strong, so I would advise to like desaturate that part a little. And also in terms of hue, you can see that it's extremely green. And the thing is that when you have that type of lighting, usually your green is it's not really going to come out that way. So I think it would be better to sort of like make it like a little bit more bluish. So if we go like before, after, whoops, something like this. And the main thing, I mean, like I'm doing it really quickly, so for sure you would need to adjust. But the overall idea is that here, since it's really bright, it actually almost overtakes the attention, from the building to the landscape, which could be a way to like, could be a sensible approach. The thing is that the framing doesn't make you look at this. So what you need to do is basically make sure that there's like a logic between your lighting and your colors. So for instance, my colors here, if I look at them, they make me look here because this is where like all the saturation happens. But when I look at the lighting, this is where I'm looking. And this is something you don't want to have, because, or at least you can want it, but usually it's tricky. The idea usually is more to get like the same focal point with your color, with your lighting, with your values and things like that. So by doing this, you sort of like take away the attention from this point and you lead it back here, because you're going to have your warmer tones here and your cold tones that are going to like be less interesting, I'd say, or like catch less the attention. So that's that. Another thing I think that could be worth thinking about, I think is nice here that you have like different types of temperature for your colors. So like here you have like a warmer, here's like mid-warm, and here's like colder. So this is quite nice. In terms of details, there was one thing that I noticed is this little arc here. If you're familiar with Forest Pack, you know that if you forget to check the edge mode, it's going to have this sort of like not really good looking edge system. So basically it's just in the, I think it's the area panel or something like that. It's one of the options that basically instead of, it's going to recreate like smaller patches or something like that so that it fits the edge, and your edge is going to be clean rather than have them sticking out like that, which is not really what you want. So that's one thing. In terms of people, I won't say they're well inserted or not because they're all 3D, so hopefully they're well inserted. In terms of placement, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. Maybe they're like I don't know, maybe it's a bit too static or something like that, but it's fine. I find it nice that there's like stuff happening outside on the little balcony here, even though I think it could have been emphasized a little by having like some sort of a little bit more like rim light. Maybe it's just the quality of the image, and like if you had like more pixels it would read better. I guess the fact that this guy is a little bit hidden is not really like necessary. Maybe you could have him like next to this guy. Basically it's just be like careful that all your people are not like almost perfectly apart from the same distance, because then it starts becoming a bit like too like artificial. This guy here seems all right. Yeah, no, beside that I think it's a really interesting image. I think maybe the overall colors, because once you start doing this kind of thing, it becomes a bit like I won't say dead, but like it's a bit cold if you have like the water, etc. So maybe you want to make a little change on the color of the interior to make it slightly warmer, like this maybe. Well, actually maybe on the overall image, who knows. But I would play around with the tone, well, not here, but with the warm color, so that you maybe have like stuff happening, and to compensate for the foreground, and the fact that you have like black areas in many space. One last thing I think that could be interesting is when you start to have that kind of strong foreground like that, is to actually maybe just consider maybe having like some sort of depth of field, so that this, because I don't think it's the case. No, it's not the case. So that you can blur a little. I wouldn't like go crazy, but just blur a little the foreground, so that it will again lead to your main focal point that is here, or at least I hope it's here, because in terms of composition, this is where your gaze is going. But yeah, beside that, really cool image, sorry. A lot of small details that I think are really like bringing it to a nice level. And the materials I think are nice. Maybe there are some fuck ups at some point, like small details, but maybe it's actually supposed to be like that. One thing I can see like here that there are like nice details. One thing that could be, I'm not sure if I can read it here, is to like when you have like a metal, is to try to get like different maps for each triangle, for example, so that you have like your glossiness changing slightly, so that you can see like really tiny differences in between each element of the cladding system. And then this will really like be some sort of nice details to be able to produce. So yeah, I guess one last thing, there was like an attempt here that I think is okay, but you can like enhance it, or maybe is it me who did that? Yeah, no, of like the lighting here. Whoops, sorry. Let's draw this up. The lighting here I think could be interesting to, it was the same idea here, but basically to use like, even though you have like the real light here, to use like invisible planes in order to light and have like some sort of rim effects on the leaves and on the like the perimeter of your trees, so that basically you can have like a little bit of warmth going inside your landscape. Maybe this could actually happen as well here. It could happen on this one. So you have like a nice transition from warm to cold. So this could be an interesting thing. And this is like entirely done with invisible planes and directional. You like in the direction thing, you can put like 0.5 or stuff like that, so that instead of being completely diffuse, it actually goes straight to your object, the plane I mean. So yeah, I'll stop here, but overall really cool image, and yeah, I don't know what else to say, so I'll stop there. I'll see you in the next teardown, guys, and see ya. Bye. Bye.